Good morning. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll probably be afternoon. Takes a long time anymore to download. Things are getting rough for me, and just keep me in prayer. Anyway, something has been coming to mind, and I've been paying attention to different videos about what happened in Maui and what's been going on, because you can't find crap on TV. It's like it never happened. I mean, you'll hear a little segment on it and that's it, and they move on. They're more concerned with the petty, stupid, fake war, and more concerned with what's going on in India and China, but nobody's talking. I'm going to read this first, because this is something that people, even Christians, need to understand, because it's so misinterpreted. But anyway, chapter 13 of Romans. Let every soul be subject to the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resist the power, resist the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Now, this has been misinterpreted, because you got ministers out there saying, well, 4 years ago when all this began, obey, telling us to do what's right according to the authorities, according to the experts and everybody else, because they know better. They're the scientists, and they're the leaders, and they want to curve. Remember the word? They want to curve curve it. So maybe we could eventually stop it. So we had been given all these. They had ideas, been given all these things were in mandates and things like that. But we got to listen to something. Let every soul be subject unto higher powers. Now, listen to this. It says, let every soul be subject to higher powers. Now, this power here is not this power, that power. Higher powers under a power, because it goes on. Higher powers. And who are the higher powers? Those who have been put in positions. So when it's saying powers, it's not saying the powers themselves. It's those people who have been put in power. So it says, subject unto higher powers. Those people who, now. For there is no power. Then it says power, which is not plural. Now it's singular. Power. Under these powers, so these are under the powers, those who were put in position are under the power, which is what? Okay. Powers. Let's read it again. Every soul is subject. And it says every soul is subject to higher powers, put in position under God. Okay? We're going to go on. Subject unto higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that are ordained by God. So when it goes back again and says, but the powers. So you had powers, which is plural, and then the power, which is God. Then you have powers again. But listen to this. For there is no power but of God. The powers that be or ordained of God. So they're talking about the powers given to these people, ordained by God, which would be pretty much interpreted, God gave us the 10 Commandments. Within the structure of the 10 Commandments, we make our laws according to God's authority. The 10 Commandments would be the authority. That would be our go-to plate, our go-to book, basically. That's where our foundation is. And then we make our laws according to the foundation. But under the power, the 10 Commandments are under one power, one ruler. That is God. So when God is putting these people in place, He's expecting them to be under his power, because they've been ordained in the position to have powers under God's ruling power. Now, 2, whosoever therefore resists the power, resists the ordinance of God, and they resist, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Now, this is where people get mixed up. They're saying, well, you got to obey the powers. You got to obey, if you got a minister, well, you got to obey the powers because this is what it... yes, but there is no powers according to the Ten Commandments that tell them that they have a right to be overbearing, no matter what the circumstances is, or the circumstances are, for the powers below God's power to be a bully, if you will. So, whosoever therefore shall resist the power. Now, who is resisting the power? It's not talking about the people under those people who have been ordained in power. No, it's talking about those yielding the power that they were ordained into. So if it says here, whosoever therefore resists, so if they resist the power for their own, they take hold of the power, meaning that the power is God's authority, okay? Everything that has been ordained under God, if God ordains it, is under his authority. Meaning they can't go rogue, or they're not supposed to. And what he's basically saying here, they themselves who resist his power to do their own thing, that means they've gone rogue. Who else went rogue in the beginning? Didn't Satan go rogue? Didn't Satan have power? Didn't Satan with Lucifer? When the name Lucifer was beautiful, when the name Lucifer meant light, when? Back then. But what happened? The authority that was given to him to be the light bearer and to whatever else God gave him authority to be, and the powers that he had, the influence which was supposed to be used to shine light, he went against God's authority and what? Became Lucifer the devil, right? And brought with him and manipulated because of the power that he had. He was given authority and a power under God, and he misused it. Now, this is what's saying here. And what does it say? And they that resist not the people normally would want to do what the powers say. But if the powers are going rogue and the people do not recognize it and do not know it, because these powers are the type of powers that people would normally listen to. You would put stock into what the health experts would say. You'd put stock into what, your government would say. Well, give or take on that. Or you put stock into whatever, the weather back in the day, But now, in the news, you'd put stock into what is being told to you. But now, the higher powers deceive. They've gone rogue. Now, 3, for rulers are not a terror to good works. Okay? Now, this is why I know I'm right in my understanding of this. Because if he didn't put that there, I could see how people would consider what I just said and the explanation, that they would see it as, well, you can't resist the higher powers. But this is the clincher when you really look at it. It says, for rulers are not a terror. Why would that be in there? Why would that even have to be said if they're underneath? Because when you go back here saying that, well, you wouldn't want to resist the devil, you wouldn't want to resist God's power because you'd be damnation. Then it finalizes that, because you would have just been, well, they're not resisting God's. But now he finalizes it saying, and the rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Okay. Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. It's not talking about the people. It's talking about the subjects. It's talking about those who are the rulers, those who have been given power under God. and if they abuse their power, what does it say here? It says that rulers are not to be a terror, not to be a sledgehammer, not to be imposing, not to be overbearing, not to be overrated. And so are not a terror to the good works. So people who are normal, people who are living, should not have to feel the hammer, that the hammer be pushed on them for no reason at all, because the leaders want more power. The leaders want more control. The leaders have gone rogue, outside and under, out from under the rule of God. Okay, rulers are not a terror of good one, but to the evil. If they were under God's power and God's rule, would they not also rule under God's power, God's authority, according to his Ten Commandments, to do things, to be against evil? But what have they done? The leaders become terror because now they're the ones doing the evil. And they're not supposed to be a terror to the good. They're supposed to be a terror to the evil. So they've gone rogue, just like Satan and 1/3 of what? The angels had gone rogue. And as we say, what's the world? The world's in terror. They are running amok because they're rogue, and their influence is taking its toll on humanity, which is supposed to happen anyway. So, wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. So, that's where the people come in now. If you are doing good and you by your people and your subjects, and you're not yielding a sledgehammer, you're not being a terror, you're working with your people, everything you're doing is for the people, and your purpose is to serve, okay? And he says, will then not be afraid of the power. So if that means that they're not afraid of being outside of God's power. They lost their respect. They lost their ferventness for the word. So the generations have come. Satan has made sure that he is. That's why they would say separate the church from the state. That was always in there for the purpose. They don't want you to look at the word of God anymore. They say, we believe in God, but now, what's that mean? What God are you talking about? The God of this world or that God? Just because it says we under one God we trust, that there's still two gods. One's a demigod, a little god, and one's the real God, the big G, right? But in God we trust, what does that mean? You see, so our pledge allegiance, if they still allow you to say it, is it in God you trust? Under one God, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we see that? Is it being manifested in the powers to be? Under the authority of God? No. Now, the reason I wanted to bring that out, just so you have an understanding of what it means, because a lot of people seem to think, and a lot of ministers seem to throw out that, and it's wrong. If the authorities are not doing what's right according to God, and they're oppressing their people, being a terror against the people, then they are no longer under the authority of God, which means that they are in error. They are wrong. Now, that means all the people that you hear them talking like they are lying to you a good percentage of the time. They're in error. Your leadership has gone astray. And even whether you're a Democrat or Republican, if you can't see that, you're blind. So here's the thing. I've been keeping up with with what's going on, watching certain people here about, Maui fires and all that. Seeing cars on the sides of the roads that are just charred to death. I mean, charred, motors, everything just charred, melted, fires that were so hot. Now, with everything that I'm hearing about, they had FEMA over there on another island, and they were having a conference, and they were living it up, and then all of a sudden, and it all had to do about this type of scenario. And isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that they do things like that? Now, I want to go back some. I want to go back some years. Years that we all remember, some of us. Remember 9/11. And what happened after 9/11? What was inundated on television every single day for months on end? For weeks on end, that is. It just, you turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, you go on the internet. All you seen was those planes, supposedly. I say supposedly, loosely. Went into the towers. You seen the same towers fall. People running, everything. And you see the people, all covered in stuff, and the stories. And they kept it going until they rebuilt it. And you kept seeing pictures of what's going on in New York and all. Isn't it funny? And then they did it in the beginning because they wanted us to go to war. But isn't it funny that was a disaster, and it was it was something that and people died. But see, I'm just flabbergasted that you turn on the TV now. We're not being inundated with what's going on in Maui. They have downplayed it so much it doesn't make sense. And in the fires and stuff, it's like they do a little piece on it and show you. Even when you think of the CBN, Christian Broad, they don't talk that much about it. They put a little bit here and there, but it seems like nobody's paying attention and nobody is doing what they're supposed to do. Because what's happening is people are sitting there watching what's going on in the world, and nobody's paying attention to Maui and the things that are going on. And the only ones that are the people on the ground, the people who are doing videos. You're not seeing. I don't even think I've actually seen too many pictures of the devastation that's there. They don't show it a lot because they don't want you to think about it. Now, I'm going to ask you something. When you think about what I talked about before, if these were all good people, and why are they not showing this? It was good enough back in 9/11 to keep showing the same crap over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until it was you couldn't go to sleep not seeing those buildings come down. You couldn't go to sleep without seeing people it was inundated because they wanted us to go to war. But nobody wants you to think about the authorities that are those people who are in power do not want you. It's like they don't want you to worry or think about those people. They don't want you to know the so-called mistakes that were made. They don't want you to care about, well, why didn't sirens go off? They don't want you to think about why those people were trapped in there driving around in circles while the flames were around them and cooked them in their cars. They don't want you to think about that. But they wanted you to think about, the people who were killed at 9/11, didn't they? I'm just trying to get you to wake up and think about something. It's funny that you couldn't get away from that. But here, they don't want you near it. They don't want the people on the ground. And here's the thing. Most of your television networks and stuff, CNN, they don't have correspondence anymore. They don't have investigative journalism. That's not even being taught anymore. That's a joke. I've talked to a person who said they graduated, and they don't teach that no more. What it is whatever news is you're given, your position is just to be the mouthpiece. So there is no investigative journalism. Whenever they come out, that's just bullshit. What they're telling you is stuff they want you to believe. And a lot of times the shit that they come out with is a lie. So this is what I'm talking about, is that you've got to make a decision on what you got to truly believe and what you really want to know. Because if you keep watching television and listening to the crap that they're telling, you're not seeing what's going on. And here's the thing. The powers that are right now, and all the people want to get in power and be president and all this other stuff. Do you understand that if they all are doing this, and they've been doing this for a long time, it doesn't matter what side, do you think either side is going to change? They have no respect for God's judgment. They have no respect for God's power, and they have no respect for God. And if they have no respect for God, then what do you think they're training you to be? They're training you to listen to their power, because what they're doing is perverting it. Well, we're in power. And even if they were to say we're Christians, or we're Christians, and we're in power, because that's what the word says. See, the word says, well, obey those who are in power. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say it that way. It says that they have to be in power, and if they are in power, they are under God's power. And whatever powers they've been given and were ordained to get when they got in office was still under the ordinance of God's final authoritative power. So, I want you all to think about that. I think that people need to call up their local television stations and ask them, why are you not doing any more investigating journalism over in Maui? Why is it that we're not seeing what's going on over there? I can't find nothing on TV. Why don't you people do something? And inundate your television stations where they have to take the phones off the hook. That's what you need to do. There needs to be, I'm going to do it. I do this type of stuff with Channel 17 all the time. Tell them, why aren't you talking about this? Why are people still dying in the streets, and people are killing themselves who are homeless, but you don't talk about that, only time every once in a while. That's because people are getting aggravated, so they make it seem like they're doing something, and they'll say something about it, and then it'll go on to something different. But nobody pays attention. These idiots on TV, they don't talk about what's true. Only what they're pushed to do. So you got to start waking people up. You got to start saying, well, I want to hear more about the Maui situation. I want you to get in there and find out why we can't get in. And then if they can't do their journalism, go to Washington and say, why can't we find out anything? Ask Pervy Joe and his boys and his clan, that is, Pervy Joe and the clan. Ask them why we can't find out anything about Maui. How many people are really dead? What exactly really did happen? Why didn't sirens go off? You're not hearing that on TV. Not whatsoever will you hear that stuff. And unless you are on the internet, you would never know. I guarantee you, if we didn't have an internet, even people like we probably would never know, unless we met somebody from Maui or somebody we knew called or something. Unless we had television, we didn't have the internet, we would probably never know that Maui got torched. That those people were shish kebab. That they were marshmallows. We would never have known. They could have rebuilt it, and people said, well, wait a minute, they could have rebuilt it and made them FEMA camp. We wouldn't know. The other thing I keep bringing up, and another thing I want you to think about, you ever remember the movies? Remember how the movies, always start training the generations how to think and desensitizes them? Remember the movie Escape from New York? Where New York was in a maximum prison, and then they came out with the next movie, Escape from Las Vegas. Yeah, remember what's his name? He's on the surfboard that was the surfing out. That was ironic, but anyway. So think about it. You got California. That's a prison, because you can put. But think about it. Remember Alcatraz, out in the middle of the water, and to get out you'd have to swim, and it ain't too hospitable if you try to escape. Hawaii, Maui, all those islands could be a great FEMA camp, a great prison for bad people, right? For people who do not adjust well to change, to people who do not compromise their beliefs, to people who will not bow down to tyranny. We can't have that, because we're the powers to be. We're the powers in charge. And of course, we've taken over. We no longer are under the yoke of the old religion, Christianity, and the Ten Commandments. We've redone everything. We're like Dallas Jenkins says, we do things different now, when he talks about his Jesus. We do, the chosen, we do things different now. You know, we're under different management. We're under our own thumb. So we'll tell you what we believe is important. We'll steer you what we believe is right. Well, this is what I'm trying to say. Start recognizing the truth of authority, where true authority is, and where do you want to get your authority? Who do you really want to listen to? And see, like I said, you pray about this stuff, you pray effectually, you pray effectively, and you do things about it. You could protest in many ways. Like I said, I personally think that people ought to continue over and over again, just constantly calling your television stations, calling CNN, all these people, calling all these people and calling them to where they can't stand it no more, that they have to address it. And then you go on the internet and you do the same thing. You go onto our websites and you keep asking the same questions over and over and over again until they shut you off. And if people continue doing that, somebody would have to notice. And so even if they shut us off, it goes to prove to them we're not taking it anymore. We don't want to lay down for you anymore. That we'll fight you all the way to the end. Because most of us who are Christian, we're going to fight you to the end because we're not going to lose our souls. We're not going to lose our salvation. We'll fight to the end even if we have to die. I will die to keep my salvation because your little pony show means nothing to me. Your little New World Order is worthless to me. It has no value to me. And doesn't have any value to you if you really think about it, you monkeys in high places. The reason being is because you won't have it long. It will be taken away from you, and you shall surely die, and you will burn in hell with Satan and his dominion forever and ever. And whether you want to believe that or not doesn't change the fact he, God, is the authoritative higher power. And this is what he says in his word, that those people will be damned, right? What did I just read? They will be damned because they went against God's authority, against God's power, and became their own power. What did the Pharisees do? Why did, when Jesus came in to existence, he said to the Pharisees, you are become hard-hearted, making making the people do more strenuous things than you. You know, putting strain on them. You know, making them, making a new sacrifice for some stupid little sin that you think is a sin, or something that they did wrong against the law, and doing little petty things, mandates, things like that. See, that's when leadership goes rogue. And then they're the ones who are getting fat off the sacrifices that are supposed to be sweet-smelling saviors unto God. They're taking the best and giving God the seconds. That's what Jesus dealt with. Hard-hearted, stiff-necked. You know, their own, doing what they believe is right. Not accepting. When Jesus came in, they didn't see him. They couldn't accept him as the Messiah. Why? He was a threat to their authority. Wait a minute, wait, I'm big and fat, man. What do you mean? I'm the one rule. Wait, I'm the main character. I'm the Pharisees, like, they don't like the idea of this 33-year-old, 27 to he was 33 years he had his ministry. They took him out because he was a threat to the authority of the church and even to Rome. So, this is what I'm saying is that the authority of God and his power must always be paramount. And if you are a follower and you want to be a good citizen, don't be a good citizen according to the smaller powers, because as a Christian, you should be able to look at what they're doing and evaluate, are they doing what's right under God's power? Does it ever say anywhere in the Word that good powers deny their people? Does it say anywhere that good powers destroy their people? Does it say anywhere where good powers beguile? Good powers, whenever explained in the Word, were those who were powers people wanted to be under. David was a beloved king. David, and even though everything that David did became a man after God's own heart, he was beloved by his people. He was adored by his people. Now, he wasn't worshipped like God, of course, but because of him, people would be able to worship God. Remember, he was a musician. He was a psalmist. He had emotion. The man was a man after God's own heart, to be called that, and the only one in the Word that was ever called that, a man after God's own heart. Wouldn't you like to be called that by God? And so, a man after God, and he was a good ruler for the good, and was against the evil that came upon him and his people. Look at how he had to fight against evil, run away from evil, all kinds of things throughout his time. So and then we look at Solomon, a wise man, okay, wiser than any king ever, and his wisdom was untouchable. But his wisdom was what? Under the authority of God, under the powers of God. Wasn't it brilliant? The one woman who had a child and the other one who said it was her child. And what does he do? He gets them to think about it. He says, well, we'll split the child in half. And you get half and you get half. And it's like, no, you'll kill the child. Well, and the real mother stands up, no, please. And he found out who the child belonged to. Brilliant deduction. But that was under God's authority. And so understand, a ruler is only a real ruler when he's under the authority of God. Any other time that he's not under the authority of God and he's starting to do evil, then he is a terror. He is a terror against God's word. He's a terror against God's authority. He's a terror against God's power. And he's a terror against the people that he's supposed to be over. And here's another thing. People in leadership today think that they're over us. That's not what being in leadership means. The president isn't over us. He is over affairs of the people. He's over the affairs of the country, but he's not over the people. Because he's representing the people. So the people basically are supposed to be the authoritativeness of their leaders. And if the people are under God, of course, that's where we have a problem in our today's society. So if you're not under God and his rule, then you're going to be haphazard in your dealings, and the people who are listening to you are going to be mishearded, if you will. That's what's happening now. But the people in charge are liking the power, are those who are in higher places are thriving on this power. They don't know anything different. That's why many of them will die unsaved, because they thrive. They thrive in sin. They thrive in selfishness. They thrive in all the things, and they thrive for all those things that are against God, that are against his powers, and that are against his authority. So I want to know more. I want to turn on the TV and I want to see more of what's going on in Maui. Not just on here. I want people to be put on. I want people to be put on notice. I want the news media to be put on notice to do its job and stop its propaganda. And I think, like I said, if we all get on our phones and we all get on the internet and you do something and you let them know, and do it once a day, inundate these people. Ask them, why are you not telling us anything about that? What's going on? You tell them what happened. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't stop the 9/11 crap. Why don't we see anything about this? You mean this isn't as big as 9/11 was? Probably could have been about as many people, if not more, that aren't found yet. The bones have not been all picked up of charred bones and bodies and cars and melted things. How hot was this? So, and a lot of you, if some of you people out there are scientists who don't see this, because, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, these things happen from time to time. If you're one of them, you're a scientific idiot. You know, go get a television show. Smoke pot like, what's his name, the physicist, you know, who's always talking, you know, and says absolutely nothing. Doesn't know whether the earth is flat or round. He'll say one thing and say another, it's oval. He thinks it's oval, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm flabbergasted because I can't believe that nobody, that humanity, I'm not talking, there's a few of us, there's only a few of us out there who want to know. And the people out there, even in Maui, you know, nobody, they don't want to do interviews. Then I haven't seen an interview on television with these people, except if it was like a 3-second thing, you know, where they show a 3 or 4 second, or maybe not even a minute. They put a little thing and they keep switching back and forth, where you don't see something too long. They'll show the cars and then they'll switch to something else. They don't want you to concentrate on it. They don't want you to see the actual problems that are going on there. I haven't heard anything on television about why the police kept people in circles, but yet I hear about it here because people are being interviewed on here. I'm still amazed they haven't stopped it all yet, that they haven't shut the internet down because of this. But anyway, keep praying. Keep praying for the people there. Pray that that the truth comes out, and those who are responsible, whether it's anybody in the military complex or the government, for a genocide, that there should be a trial. We should have the 2023-2024 genocide trials against the governments and against those in high places and against those who were not under the authority of God. There ought to be a genocide trial, just like the Nurembergs, and people should pay with their lives if found guilty of genocide of humanity. They should be tried for death penalties. So I'm putting all you people in government on call, all you people in all these organizations, whether it has to do with the health, whether it has to do with military, whether it has to do with government, it doesn't matter. But all you people in high places who are not under the yoke of God's power, that you, and God's authority, that you should be put up on trial for the destruction of mankind and the genocide of humanity. Not only that, you know, what have you done and scorched the earth, destroying birds, destroying the lands, destroying everything that was created by God? You should pay with your lives. That's only if you're tried with a legal. I'm not saying that, but I'll tell you what. I wouldn't mind being called to push the button, or pull the lever, or whatever. If I was asked to do it, I'd do it under God and the authority, for they shall be paid. They shall pay reprobance. And they shall pay dearly. But it's going to be God who does it. But I'll tell you what, God were to ask me, you want to pull a lever, you know, chop off head? Hey, yeah, I'll do it. Put them all up here. Hillary, but, you know, let me have them all. Perfect. Trump, I don't, whatever you want, God. But of course, that ain't going to happen. So anyway, pray. Derby Jack out. See you all on the other side.